Okay. So would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Satara Henry, and by profession, I'm a chemical engineer. I work as the Environmental Health and Safety Director at Daikin, and Daikin is the world's largest HVAC manufacturer. Um, and in addition to that, I'm honored to serve as the First Lady and Chief of Staff for First Missionary Baptist Church in Conroe
That's amazing. How long have you worked at that company?
for 10 years.
Wow. Okay. First question, what was the first thing you've ever built or designed that made you realize I want to be an engineer?
Oh, okay. So, so I am a chemical engineer, so more online of like experiments and things like that. So it really goes back to childhood and a birthday gift, a very special gift for my mom. She gave me a microscope. And I just remember like running around the house and pulling off small pieces of her plants so that I could look at them at a cellular level under my new microscope. But it was at that moment that I knew I wanted to be an engineer or a scientist.
It's amazing. Was there any unique challenges you faced as a woman in a field that is so male dominated and also a woman of color?
Oh, I would say yes. And I would say it actually started before began my career. So I attended a engineering magnet school that was previously all male. And at the time of my enrollment, there were certain members of the staff they were just wondered whether or not young ladies belonged in that space. And so instead of, being discouraged, I decided to respond with determination.
Yeah.
I wanted to prove that not only to myself, but to others, that young ladies belonged in that space and that we could thrive as being engineers.
Were there any misconceptions that you often heard about women in STEM?
No, I was told that, math is hard, science is hard, you may want to try something else. But I enjoyed math and science. I enjoy math and science today, and I work with, young people so that they can have that same passion for those disciplines.
Amazing. I feel like now no one really likes math. No one really like math is not an easy subject, and I think once you know how to do it, you can find a way to make it fun.
Math is so beautiful because there are so many different ways that you can arrive at the same answer. And so I mainly work with young people so that they know and understand that math is reproducible. So as long as you follow a disciplined strategy, you'll get to the right result.
Okay. Could you describe a day in the life of you working on your current or previous project to someone that doesn't know what a chemical engineer does?
Well, sure. I find that chemical engineering is the perfect blend between problem solving, learning, and then making a real world impact. So, day to day, you'll find that your activities will be different, but they all accomplish that same mission. And so, as an environmental professional, I am looking at our different activities in an industrial setting. I'm looking at how those activities interact and impact the environment and looking for ways for us to minimize that environmental impact.
And sorry. Was there anyone who inspired you to look into engineering or like a person of color, a woman, doesn't matter, but anyone who has inspired you?
Oh, absolutely. So in middle school, I was a part of a program called MESA, Mathematics, Engineering, Science Achievement. And I had an opportunity to have a day with an engineer. So I tagged along with this chemical engineer, and she was amazing. I watched her navigate the space between the office and in a corporate setting to going out into the plant, putting on her hard hat and her boots. And so it was at FMC Corporation, and they make the base ingredients for pesticides and herbicides. And I remember just looking at her and just being so amazed that she could work both in the corporate space and in the industrial space. And I decided, right there in middle school, that I was going to be a chemical engineer, and I haven't wavered from that.
And I bet that was so inspiring seeing a woman working in a field because you never really hear about a woman like working in both corporate and like hands-on on the field. It's
That's right. Especially, back when I was in middle school, right? I mean, there were so few female engineers. You heard about doctors, lawyers, that you could be a teacher, but no one really talked about engineering. So I was so blessed to be part of that MESA program.
it's amazing. I hope more schools will incorporate engineering. I know some have, which is really great. Okay. Moving forward, do you have or how do you use hands-on problem-solving skills when you're working on a project?
So, a lot of my work is definitely hands-on, right? So in my job, I basically go out and I look at, you know, what we're making, looking at how we make our product, looking at how those products have emissions or pollutants. And then we implement strategies that bring in pollution control technology, right? And so that is a very hands-on thing. And then in my career, I'm also blessed that a few times a year I get to go out to talk to preschool students, to elementary students, even high school students about math, science, and careers. And so I use a basic chemistry oxidation experiment where you take iodine and you take bleach and you show a reaction, a chemical reaction. So in the secular world, I basically use this reaction to talk about how cleaners and products like OxyClean work, right? But then at church, I'm able to use the same experiment to show how the blood of Jesus can cleanse away sins. And so it is so impactful because the experiment is so visual, right? And so I basically use this hand-on experiment that uses chemistry to show them how they can use these background principles in a practical way.
I love that. That sounds so fun. Um, okay. Is there sorry, this is like okay. Are there any like non-traditional paths that you wait, sorry, I'm just gonna go free. I'm not even gonna read because I'm like how has your role or focus changed as your career or since you've started?
Okay. So when I think about my career, one of the things that I think about is like the level of passion that I have for the environment, right? The level of passion that I have for math and science. And, in school, you're told, do your job, do a great job. As long as you do a good job, that, you'll be promoted. And so that works early in your career. I was blessed to have a mentor that explained to me that once you get to the executive ranks, right, it is less about your technical ability and more about how you navigate that space. So there are some unspoken, unwritten things that you find at a corporate level or at a high executive level. So there, the focus is more on leadership skills, more focused on communication skills, more focused on networking. And so it really changed the trajectory of my career once I understood that it's not just technical ability alone, it is also how well you can lead, guide, and direct people.
And what is the most rewarding part of that job?
It's really when I know and I can calculate that I'm making an impact. That from a people standpoint, from a planet standpoint, the work that I do, it really matters.
It's amazing. Is there anything specific that you do to help the planet?
Mhm. Yes. So I'll give you an example. On a project I'm working now, there are some new emerging regulations that will take effect in 2026. So I look at those regulations. I'm able to determine applicability to our specific product, to our specific facility, and then work with, cross-functional teams, and in some cases with team members that are across the globe. So I'm able to work with them to understand how specifically our process will be impacted by these new regulations. So once we are able to quantify that, to say, okay, we will have to reduce emissions, we would have to install some additional control technology. I'm able to then take those solutions and provide them to our executive leadership to request capital money and funds to implement these solutions. So as a result, a direct result of the work that I do and the work that, I do with my team and with our global partners, we are able to reduce pollution to the environment directly.
That's amazing. Especially nowadays, pollution and climate change have been affecting
Mhm.
planet so much, and it's really scary to see, honestly.
Yes, and it's great to work for a company that has a long-term business strategy of, net zero greenhouse gas emissions, right? That is a huge, huge goal, and we're working to achieve that.
That's amazing. Um, is there any skill outside of math and science that you think is important for a aspiring engineer?
Absolutely, without a doubt, leadership skills. So, by definition, if you are a good leader, you will be a good communicator. And so you'll know that your problem solving techniques that you use as an engineer alone are not enough for you to be successful. That you must be able to influence other people. You must be an advocate for other people in order for you to be successful.
That's great. And do you have any tips on how to strengthen your leadership skills?
I would say definitely, get a mentor. Work with someone who is in the field. Look for someone who you admire, who you see navigating these spaces successfully. And they will guide you because I think that the path is going to be different for each individual, right? And having that personal relationship, they can let you know specifically for you what skills you would need to work on.
Okay, I will note those down. And for the last question, if you could go back and give your 10-year-old self a piece of advice about pursuing a career in engineering, what would it be?
So if I would go back, I would tell her, first of all, you're on the right path, that you're going to love what you do in the future. But the one thing I would tell her is to enjoy the moment and to rely on your village. And so a lot of times when you are independent and you're strong, you think that I can do it all by myself, right? And what you'll find is that we're stronger together. So rely on your village. Definitely look to your network and listen to your mentors.
That's amazing. Um, I enjoyed interviewing you. I know the time for the Zoom call is running out, so I had to jump ahead, but I love learning more about you and a woman in STEM. I think it's really inspiring for anyone, people of color, men, women. I think seeing someone so confident and uh, someone so passionate about their job is really nice to see. So I enjoyed this interview.
Well, thank you so much. I enjoyed meeting you. Um, I look forward to connecting with you on LinkedIn. And just sharing tips, sharing experiences. So I wish you well in your career and we will stay in touch.
Hey, thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, bye-bye.